Okay, maybe let's just get going. It's 6:30 now. Of course, thanks so much for joining us this evening. Always appreciate you showing up and being a part of this committee. We are small but mighty. So thank you for that. And it's been a while since we all met as a group. I thought I said, yeah, November was it the last time that we all met? So I'll spend a couple minutes here just kind of walking through and reminding you what we've done in the last now almost year or so. And then walk through what is expected out of you tonight. And also talk about the comprehensive plan and just what that work entails and what you're going to be seeing this evening. And then again at the last two CEC meetings, which will be scheduled in the summer and then again in the fall. So I'm going to be doing this thing where I'm navigating the PowerPoint both here and here. Okay, so yeah, quick agenda. I'll give some project updates. Then I want to review what the comprehensive plan is and what is our process and schedule for updating this document. And then we'll jump into the meat of the meeting, which is reviewing the goals and policies for block 1. And I'll talk a bit about what is block 1. And then we'll talk about next steps. Any questions on the agenda or anything before we get off? Okay. I always like to start with this. I think you've all seen this before, but I think it helps orient us into what we're doing here. So for the visioning and the comprehensive plan update process, as you recall, last spring, we started out with a series of background reports that detailed existing conditions and trends around a variety of different topics like housing and transportation, et cetera, in Sandy. And that essentially answered the question of where are we now? And while that was going on, we also started working on developing the new community-wide vision. So asking ourselves and asking others, where do we want to go? All that lends itself to the question of, well, how do we get there? And that is codified in a series of goals and policies. And the goals and policies essentially make up the comprehensive plan document. The document itself includes our new community-wide vision statement. It includes some information from the background reports. It's kind of contextual introductions to the thematic areas of the comprehensive plan. And then it has a series of goals and then a series of policies. There's an additional kind of sub-step here that isn't listed, but will also, you'll see probably as part of the final deliverable or the final document, is there will be a series of implementation strategies for some of the policies where we have that information or we've identified those strategies. But typically the strategies, or some people call them action items for how to implement the policies, those are typically outside of a comprehensive plan so that they're more of like a work plan and you can kind of check things off. Updating the comprehensive plan is a legislative process. So keeping that as straight and orderly as possible is always in our interest. Okay, so project schedule, of course. We've done the community visioning and the goal setting. Last October, we had that Future Fest event at the Whippersnappers. It was highly attended. Lots of folks came out for that. I think we actually reviewed the outcome of that meeting at our last CEC meeting in November. So that was a really great kind of opportunity to be able to report out to the community what we heard from them and what the vision, what the draft vision statement looked like, and then also start moving the needle a bit further, asking, okay, given this vision statement, how do we get there? What are the things that need to happen in order to get, achieve this vision, essentially? So that happened through last winter. As I mentioned, we've also been doing kind of this assessment of current and future conditions. The things that have fallen into this bucket include the city's updated housing needs analysis and economic opportunities analysis. These are technical exercises that cities undertake in order to understand future trends and forecasts regarding housing and economy. which is really important for developing policy direction around those two things for a city. So that's been happening in the background, and the EOA and the HMA, that will definitely inform the policy development for housing and economy during during one of the blocks of the comp plan, and that's going to be a little bit later this year. So yeah, as you can see, comp plan update. A lot of work is happening. I would say this is a little out of date in that this blue box probably should extend into fall, and then the adoption period will be more fall winter. And throughout the comp plan process, we'll have kind of 3 opportunities for community engagement. They may be more targeted engagement opportunities. These might be interviews with stakeholders, variety of different types of things. It's those stakeholder workshops that we had earlier this week. So there's going to be some kind of conversations and targeted outreach happening behind the scenes as we do this policy development. And then at some point, we will also have kind of a year end or towards the end of this process, a more public facing event or activity that helps share out the work that's been done in this process. And yeah, adoption. So planning commission and city council hearings will likely start in October, November of this year. November, I'm looking at Kelly and he's we'll see. Anyways, lots going on. Okay. Let's see. So let's talk a little bit about the comprehensive plan, the process, and then our schedule. You might be wondering, what does the city's current comprehensive plan even look like? It looks like this. It is on the city's website. It's a pretty large PDF. A couple things to note about this comprehensive plan is that it is organized by statewide planning goals. So you'll see kind of this middle image here, goal 1, goal 2, goal 3. These are all, as I mentioned, statewide planning goals, and all comprehensive plans do need to align with these statewide goals. And in the comp plan itself, essentially there's a goal statement and then a number of policies. This chapter here, energy conservation, is rather short. There's a lot of other ones that are quite lengthy. Another aspect of this document as well is that there is a lot of background information in this document, a lot of technical information that may no longer be relevant, or kind of proposes numbers and forecasts that are likely very out of date. So there's a lot of text in this document, a lot of background information, etc. I'd be curious, Gary, as planning commissioner, kind of if you want to tell us a little bit about what your experience is with the comprehensive plan, or how the commission uses it or has been using it as of late, and if there's anything you want to say about what it is now.
It normally hits us more in the bigger picture when Kelly puts together a land use application. Just check how does it fit into the comprehensive plan. And sometimes the reports will reference our comprehensive plan says we should do this, and this plan is doing it.
Yeah.
Or big pictures.
Yeah, I think one of the downsides of our existing comprehensive plan is it's just so aged, is what I'll say, at this point, is that while I think some of the policies and goals in there are still relevant, I think the overall, I don't know if the overall direction of the entirety of the plan really conforms with what the city's going to be envisioning going into the future. So I think it's a little too out of date at this point. It's been 26 years.
And it's chunky.
It's not a great document to read through either.
Like, I don't know, let's say, what is the city's vision statement? Can't remember what's in there.
Yeah. I should know if this has a vision as part of the document. Yeah. And not all comp plans need to have a vision per se, but we are kind of seeing a trend towards developing policy direction that's rooted in something like a vision that is informed by the community, which I think is a great trend. Yeah.
Yeah, if you look through it, there are a lot of policies that the city did adopt since 1997. So there's definitely an effort in some regards to adopt some of this. But then if you look at parts of it, policies sound really interesting and good, but it's very clear that there was never development code that codified those policies. So I think this time around, what we really need to do a more concentrated effort on is once we adopt comprehensive new policies, to make sure the development code reflects those policies.
Yeah, the implementation of the comprehensive plan is an unusual beast in that it happens through a variety of different methods. It happens by ensuring that land use applications that get onto Jerry's desk meet the policy statements in the comp plan. It happens through development code that insists on certain things due to the policy of a comprehensive plan. It also gets implemented through departmental action plans and budgeting every year. So there's a lot of ways in which a comprehensive plan kind of infiltrates its way in the actual built environment of a community. Yeah. And I think so the development of the implementation strategies, which, you know, there will be some that come out of some of these policies in the end, that is kind of an example of bridging the actual comp plan document to then, okay, what's our strategy? Like, how do we do this? Like, we have this policy for XYZ. Now, who's a responsible party for ensuring that, you know, we do this, or that we start building steps in order to do it, et cetera.
So actually on this one, it's a good example because if you look at the goal, the second policy was actually achieved. They started SAM after the adoption of this plan in 1997, started transit. The third one was also codified into village centers around town, but they've never really taken off. When you say that's fair, Gary?
Yeah.
Yeah, great example. All right, so just a bit of background of how we want to organize the new comprehensive plan. So here on the left, I have hierarchy of content, and then on the right, just kind of showing how it might look in the updated comp plan. So hierarchy of content. This is actually really important when we're thinking about the language of the policies versus the language of a vision or the language of a goal. The vision is, as we all know, aspirational, overarching direction that describes a future desired state. Couched under that is the goal. So it's a broad statement of purpose that defines what the community wants to achieve. The policy is a clear statement guiding a specific course of action for decision makers to achieve the desired goal. And then an action item or an implementation item or implementation strategy are describe how that policy will be achieved. It's a little bit more measurable. And as I said, usually that action item, that's not part of a comprehensive plan, but it's essentially a separate kind of work plan for the implementation of the comp plan. So for our updated comp plan, we know from our vision statement that we have 6 vision themes. We are aiming to have about 3 to 5 goals or so for each of the themes. And then under each goal, we'll likely have anywhere from 4 to 10 or so policies. And then we'll have some implementation strategies for certain policies as needed or, you know, where it's obvious. So that's kind of the bulk of the content that we're dealing with. Kelly, I don't know if you have any idea like how many policies you think the current comp plan has. You don't? Okay, it'd be interesting to know. Sometimes we work with communities that have hundreds of policies, and then they go down to like 50, and they're like, this is so clean. Which means that kind of the detail that was probably captured in those other hundreds of policies exist elsewhere and are likely more able to be codified in other types of things like your code. So just interesting to be thinking about the hierarchy of content and then the scale of information as well. All this about a document, right? Okay, so a bit more about the organization of the content. I'm sorry if this is quite small, it's also in the packet. I like to call this kind of the matrix of vision themes to statewide plan goals. But as I mentioned, we have our 6 themes that came out through the vision. We grouped them in sets of two in order to be kind of working through a couple things at the same time simultaneously. So the set of two vision themes essentially constitutes a block. And so we'll work through each block over the course of a couple of months. In block one, so the first one that we're working through right now, the two themes that we're covering are community and culture and transportation and infrastructure. In the middle, that column proposed topic areas, that's pulling out some of the topic areas that were brought up in the vision statement for these theme areas. And then we try and link them to, okay, what are the statewide planning goals that these topic areas or these themes most apply to? Because in the end, we do want to make sure that the comprehensive plan is consistent with the statewide planning goals. You'll see that when we organize a comprehensive plan by thematic area versus just goal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like statewide planning goal, we end up ends up being a lot of crossover between all the different topic areas where, you know, we could be talking about energy when it comes to transportation, but also when it comes to housing and economy. So there's going to be some overlap of content among all of these themes. And so you will see in that kind of list of applicable statewide planning goals, you'll see like A, B for some of those topic areas. And that's just kind of an example of where there might be a statewide planning goal might apply to more than just one theme. So it'll be met in a couple of pieces. Any questions about this?
Statewide planning goals now.
We do, yeah. So great. So it looks like there's some numbers missing, but the reason for that, so there's 19 statewide planning goals. Not all planning goals apply to all cities. So yeah, so for some, there's, for example, there's statewide planning goal 4 and 5 are about forest lands and agricultural lands. 3 and 4, thank you. And those don't apply to cities where those lands don't exist within city limits. There's also a number of statewide planning goals that deal with coastal planning, and also like being on the Willamette Greenway as well, that are like really specific to the coast and really specific to being along the Willamette Greenway. If you are not in either of those places, none of those apply to you. So yeah, the numbering is a little confusing in that you're like, we're missing 3, 4, 19, and 15.
It's mainly 1 through 14 minus 3 and 4.
Right. And then, yeah, I forgot. I think these off the top of my head.
I don't know.
But the ones that are like apply kind of broadly to most communities are goals 1 through 14, with the exception of goal 3 and 4, forest and agricultural lands. Any questions about this, the organization of the content or material here? Okay. So of course, comp plan is kind of this umbrella document for a lot of other things that the city's doing, but the city doesn't just work on its comprehensive plan. It also does and undertakes a number of studies and technical analyses that inform and provide the data for a lot of the policy direction here. So the city is kind of in a great place where they have spent a lot of resources in updating some pretty major technical analyses that is required of all communities in Oregon. Well, with the exception of the second one, but the transportation system plan, the TSP, the economic development strategy builds off of the economic opportunities analysis. And then there's a housing needs analysis that's forthcoming. And then the city also just recently updated their parks and trails master plan.
The TSP will be adopted in June.
Great, 2023 TSP. Yeah, so the great thing about having kind of these new updated analyses is that typically these documents also include a series of goals or policies, recommendations. They also sometimes include actual capital improvement projects, but a comprehensive plan in its best form is aligned with all of these other documents or all of these other exercises that are happening around it. So you'll see that basically for certain topic areas in the comp plan, we have just pulled in the information that has already been identified, vetted and adopted in some other supporting plans. So we're really doing our best to have just as much kind of alignment between all of these various planning efforts and kind of technical undertakings that's happening around the same time. And sometimes you're in communities where these types of technical analyses, are like 10 years out of date. And you're trying to still set policy direction and you're just kind of unable, you don't have the latest data or the latest information or the forecasts. And those are definitely a lot trickier when you have a lot of different sources of information that came at very different times. This is obviously very problematic for communities that are experiencing pronounced growth and a lot of change in a short amount of time. So it's great that we've got these supporting plans very that are so recent.
So the TSP was last adopted in 2011, so that was a pretty recent document. The EOA and the HNA were both adopted in 2015. The Parks and Trails Master Plan was 1997, just like the comp plan, so it was really old. And the Economic Development Strategic Plan is the first one ever to be adopted by the city.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Yeah.
Plan to keep renewing them all around the same time again, or
It depends on funding and city resources at that time. Typically, we see a lot of it's based on did something major happen in our community where we need to update this information, but then it's also do we have, where is the funding coming? What kind of resources can we tap into? I would say typically we see updates to these types of documents every 10-ish years or so, sometimes less if as I said, major things are happening, sometimes more if things are kind of stagnant. But yeah, it's dependent on kind of all of those factors. So there's a lot of stuff that cities do in addition to reviewing land use applications. Okay. So yeah, this is kind of where we are. This is the first of 3 meetings organized around the comp plan. Very different kind of content than what we've looked over as a group before. So and then, so for each of these blocks, we have 3 blocks over the next 8 months or so. We've developed kind of an iterative process for how we're going to go about developing goals and policies. So this is kind of what's going to happen every time we enter a new block. The first thing we'll do is project team is going to start by drafting some very preliminary policy language that stems from a review of the supporting plans. It comes from looking at the community engagement output that we got through the last year. It comes from internal discussions with staff, et cetera. So there's a lot of inputs to the preliminary draft of goals and policies. After that, the Planning Commission City Council does have kind of a preliminary review of that information via email. We take that feedback, we make some tweaks, we come to you and have a meeting and kind of share with you what this preliminary draft looks like. We might at the same time, there may be some other conversations we're having, some other engagement we're having around the same time that we are having our meeting. Based on the feedback that we get from you tonight, based on other kind of targeted outreach that we're doing around the same time, we'll then go and revise those policies. We'll then have a joint Planning Commission City Council meeting where we'll kind of share an update of what we did, what we heard from the CDC, what kind of changes we made, and then we'll essentially make any other final revisions to that block of goals and policies. Now it says final policies here at the end. It is not final, but it is a revised or updated draft so that when we get to the adoption process, everyone will have seen everything and hopefully there won't be a rehashing of all this stuff by the time we get through the adoption process. But that's kind of how we're organizing kind of the iterations of drafts and then how we're engaging with kind of different parties. Any questions? Okay. So I plan to go through the goals and policies for block 1. I will preface by saying that it's a lot of content and a lot of text. My apologies for having text on slides. It's really hard to look at. I also don't want to be talking at you for an hour and a half. I will get tired. So I am open to kind of talking, maybe after we go through this, talking a bit about what is the best way to review all of this content and what's the most effective way to get your feedback on it. I will do my best to maybe just give some high level pointers of what we did, kind of what are some of the concepts we tried to capture for each of the goals and kind of help orient you around that. I'm happy to have just a bit of quiet time at the beginning of each of these sessions for folks to kind of scan themselves. I'd love to just pause and see what you think. Basically, what I hope to get out of all of us here tonight is we want to know, are we on the right track? Are there any kind of ideas that we're missing? Thinking, of course, about the other blocks that are coming down the pipeline and where some other topic areas might land. But if there are any ideas that are missing, or if you have like particular specific kind of, even if in your head you're like, I have like a action item or a strategy that would really like help move this policy statement forward, if you want to go ahead and share that, that's also welcome. But really the purpose of tonight is to kind of vet this information with you. And if you have any kind of things you want to raise with or have us share with the planning commission or city council, that we can communicate that to them as well. So yeah, that's kind of my hope for how we approach this content. Does that sound good? Okay. So as I said, block one is two themes, or two vision themes. The first is community and culture. Love starting with this. This is what makes us all feel good. This is definitely the thematic area that is like the least land usey. A comprehensive plan is a land use policy document. Community and culture tries to basically capture all of the things that are adjacent to land use in some capacity, but that we have a really hard time not talking about when it comes to land use. So that's kind of what the purpose of this is here. So I just added the vision statement for, where we landed on the vision statement for this first theme.
Would you say it's fair that this is kind of what makes Sandy Sandy though?
Absolutely, absolutely. And you read this and you're like, okay, I can immediately understand the physical, tangible nature of some of these statements and how it relates to culture.
So they taking it back to the gateway mountain.
I don't know. I think some people want to.
I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I lived since 1990, so I went through a lot of changes.
It physically feels like the gateway though. You leave Sandy and you're like physically in a different place.
What I would say, you're not alone on that. I think some of the people that would look to do that are part of our leadership on the council. So I wouldn't doubt that happens in the next few years.
My curiosity is what made it change to elevation? That's one thing that I just can't grasp the idea.
I mean, I'll be very.
Much elevation, and there's not much elevation in Sandy yet. You know what I mean? We do 800 feet here, 900 feet.
Yeah, it's anywhere from about 750 to 1,000.
Yeah, so. I just thought it was a waste of money. I could have put it in a.
I don't think you're alone in feeling that, yeah.
What was it, $75,000?
Something about that, yeah.
I mean, they could have put it to help the needy or something instead of changing, and doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, I don't believe you're alone in that. I wouldn't doubt if the official city slogan changes.
So I don't know, stick with home.
Sorry, I just realized that there's a quick, oops. I might have a pen in my bag. Sorry, I just realized that I have one.
Don't have to do it.
That didn't work.
There is one right here. It looks kind of old. I don't know if it's gonna work, but I think it will work.
All right, that didn't work. I realized that I copied over accidentally the same statement, so. One of my next slides. We can, yeah, oh, I know what it is. Okay, right, so under community culture, the way that we broke it out into kind of three goal statements. So we talk about civic engagement, we talk about history and heritage, and then public amenities and facilities. So these are kind of three topic areas that came out of that vision statement. And so we have a goal statement for each of these three topic areas. So civic engagement, this is statewide planning, goal 1, public involvement. Civic engagement, our goal here is implement and maintain a culture of community engagement by providing a broad array of inclusive engagement opportunities for all Sandy community members. The goal under history and heritage is honor, so sorry, this is where I copied over the same one, but this should read, honor Sandy's history and heritage through the public realm. And then goal 3 for public amenities and facilities, provide public amenities and facilities to help meet the education, recreation, and civic use needs of the community. So these are our 3 goal statements, and then there are a number of policies under each of these goal statements that help achieve that goal or kind of flesh it out even further. All right. So I'll let you kind of read through this. But here for civic engagement, a lot of the policies focus on ensuring that there's some body that is responsible for ensuring that public involvement happens in the planning process. There's also policies here about the dissemination of information and public notice and the importance of disseminating communications in transparent, easy to read formats. It also has a policy about kind of monitoring and improving the city's website and just online engagement platforms. We know that the city's kind of launched their Sandy Speaks engagement platform. So just paying credence to that. This is also where we talk about promoting Sandy's network of service and volunteer-based organizations, about continuing to maintain relationships with community-based organizations that are really important for a lot of the planning processes here in the city. And there is also a policy here about engaging youth in civic affairs and public decision-making bodies or processes.
And we're just looking at.
We're looking at it all, but there are certainly more policies than there are goals. But yeah, we are looking at both the goals and the policies.
But not the vision statements, right? Because those
The
were.
vision, yeah, the vision is set. It's what has led to this. So yeah, the vision is set, and now we're just looking at the ensuring that we have captured the concepts that we want to be capturing here.
First thought was just more of a technical thing.
Yeah.
The goal 1, just having the word engagement in it.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's generally upgraded, but.
maybe, yeah. I noted that. It will be very hard to not wordsmith. So I think for all of for our sanity, let's try our best not to your comment was great, but I think let's try not to wordsmith, but then just make sure that we're focusing on what is the idea and have we captured the ideas here?
But I do think if you do see words that probably pause or issue.
Yes.
You could email those to Candice and I, because I think that would be really nice to have
Absolutely,
those.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I just didn't want you to focus on just wordsmithing. But yeah, if you absolutely see something, please.
Yeah, please email us.
Okay. Anything here?
I like it.
See that we got the planning commission.
I know.
Up in the center there,
Yeah.
policy 1.1.
Yeah. All right, so the next one is history and heritage. Yeah.
It's kind of, it is number one there, but read it. That we're responsible for facilitating. It's more a matter of we facilitate. We don't take a proactive stance in facilitating things. I mean, in other words,
Yeah,
we don't sit in our meetings and talk about, okay, how can we get more community involvement in the planning process? It's more when things come to us that we facilitate the community involvement.
right. So goal,
I understand that in
Yeah.
sense, but it couldn't be read as where we have to make it happen
right.
as a planning commission.
Right, well, statewide planning goal does call for local governments to have a committee for citizen involvement to monitor and encourage public participation in the planning process. Typically, that citizen involvement committee or committee for citizen involvement is typically cities' planning commissions. They're the ones that monitor and encourage public engagement in some form or fashion. So that's kind of just how we call it out in that first policy. Sorry. Okay. All right, so the next one is history and heritage. The goal is to honor Sandy's history and heritage through the public realms, kind of bringing it back to land use. So here we talk about preserving and enhancing distinct historical and cultural features in the city. We call out the city's urban renewal program or plan to implement improvements that encourage investment and increase prosperity and vitality in Sandy's downtown. We have a policy about improving just physical characteristics of Sandy, wayfinding signage, gateway elements, public art, lighting, street furniture. Doesn't say it here, but flower baskets. Feel like I heard that everywhere. We do, but so that's kind of where this is captured. There's also policy around public art here. So knowing that the murals are a big part of just kind of what we see and experience here in town. So policies about public art, and then of course, policies around city activities and events and festivals to promote a sense of community. So these are, you know, some of which are a little bit more programmatic and others are a little bit more tangible.
And just so you know, I think policy 2.5, just so everybody's aware, the city council is wanting to make that more prevalent in our community. They just decided at their retreat in February that we are actually going to officially do a Winterfest every.
Oh,
So we kind of
cool.
started it this year and it's going to grow and get bigger and they're actually going to dedicate more funding towards it. Because they felt that in the summer, we have a lot of events and activities in the parks, but in the winter, we haven't really had much in the past. So they did decide they're going to go forward with a bigger festival every
They used to be way back. We used to pray for snow.
Yeah.
Oh, it was before my time.
Pray for Snow still happens though, but in different venues. I mean, it happens in Portland in like a bar. It's like kind of like a woodblock
So
thing.
that was like towards the mountain.
Mhm. But yeah, that's good.
I just wanted to let everybody aware that that just was set like less than a month ago.
Nice.
Cool.
Well, we have a policy supporting that, so
Head of the game.
yeah,
They're already achieving that.
fill that policy bucket with money. Any thoughts here?
I have one question.
Yeah.
So are these is there any hierarchy to their
Great question. There is no intended hierarchy.
And then the question is on 2.2 about the urban renewal plan. It's interesting to me because it's under history and heritage and urban renewal tends to not really for history and heritage. And that bullet point doesn't specifically say anything about preserving history, but it's on this.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so just so you're aware, our urban renewal program, it's both. It's been used to implement new buildings and new programs. We have in the recent past used it more to revitalize existing older buildings. So one example of that is the church on Pioneer just on the way. We actually paid for about half of the improvements because that's the oldest church in town and we wanted to have it remain instead of being taken down. And then we did put a lot of money into Joe's Donuts to try to get that facility into better condition. And so I would agree with you that typically urban renewal agencies don't do a great job of that. I will say in the last like 5 or 6 years, and I take a pretty big interest in doing that.
But maybe there could be some clarification or direction about how urban renewal can do a lot of things, including enhancing and preserving historical and heritage elements.
I would agree. I think it needs to be modified completely.
Great. Okay,
That's a really good point.
anything else here? All right, the last goal statement for this theme, public amenities and facilities. This is kind of an example of a thematic area that I think will come up in a couple of other themes as well. But here, we're talking about providing public amenities and facilities to help meet the education, recreation, and civic use of the community. So here we have policies that talk about coordinating the siting of public facilities and services with other agencies or districts. So fire district, post office, school district, some of these other kind of agencies that have public facilities in town. Collaboration with various different entities, like recreation providers and schools to facilitate the co-location of community facilities, particularly in underserved neighborhoods. I will say that this concept actually came directly out of the Parks and Trails Master Plan, where they identified a number of opportunities where there could be co-location of facilities to do, like one place to do multiple different things or offer a variety of different services, and that there was an interest in especially utilizing those opportunities in place in neighborhoods where this didn't exist to begin with. So that's kind of where that concept came from. We have policies around maintaining city services for senior activities and programming. We do have a policy about pursuing the development of a new aquatic facility and community center. And then we also, of course, call out the library here and just the collaboration needed with Clackamas County to continue expanding and supporting library services, programs, and facilities.
So that, is something that happened to the school?
That's gonna get knocked down.
Good.
I mean, I'll just be honest, they drained it. They announced that a few months ago, and so it's been drained. We're gonna demo the building and then we're gonna pursue how to build a new one. They came to the realization that rehabbing the existing one was not the right move.
I mean, even if you were to keep the old one, just sell to somebody that runs it privately, because it's, I mean, like I said, my oldest is 31. I think I've only been there about 6 times.
Yeah, but it's going away.
So-
The existing one is. I did notice the policy numbering, but you already caught that.
I did not, so thank you. That's great. This is why we're doing this.
Is there like a plan? It's written down on what's gonna happen?
Not yet. There's a pool exploratory committee. And they just concluded like in January that to drain the pool and knock that building down. And now they're gonna start looking at the options to potentially fund a new one. And they haven't even started on it yet. Their first objective was to decide, should we continue with the pursuit of potentially rehabbing the existing one and adding to it or knocking it down? So after they actually spent a lot of time on it, 3 of the council members were on the exploratory committee and they made the decision. Let's get rid of it. Which is good, because it needed to be either let's renovate it or let's knock it down, but we need to move forward and make a decision there.
Yeah. There will likely be a number of like action items for policy, well, 3.3 as stated here.
3.3 is a very big pursuit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So in a way, what's interesting is this policy, the language here is stated so that it's about pursuing the development of a new aquatic facility. So it's not.
So this research.
Yeah, it's not like sticking yourself in time of like develop a new aquatic facility. Yeah, it's said in a way that kind of acknowledges the longevity of this type of undertaking. Which is why it feels applicable, like it feels appropriate for at the comprehensive plan level.
And just to be clear, from a city perspective, from, working at the city, I think everybody agrees we need a water and aquatic facility. It's how do we fund it? That is really the big question. I mean, honestly,
Budget figure that out.
I don't think anybody doesn't want it.
Yeah, it's how do you
It's
say.
how do you pay for it?
Anything here?
Just curious on the last one. As to why we reference something outside of the city. I mean, it's not, I'm not saying that it's a bad idea. It's just that I was thinking the comprehensive plan deals within our borders, at least our UGB. But to reference involvement outside, maybe there's other places that we do it, I just was first on this one, but
Yeah,
it just kind of made me kind of go,
yeah, I hear what you're saying. We do it a lot.
Okay.
We're gonna talk a lot about collaboration with regional and partner agencies. This is an example of, we have a library that we are seeing right now, within city limits that is managed by Clackamas County. And so it is in the,
It's managed by the city.
sorry, managed by the city, but it is within the jurisdiction of Clackamas County, isn't it?
No, it's very complicated. It's within the jurisdiction of Sandy. But the library funding is split by a program at the county level.
Right.
So
It is in the city's best interest to be working and coordinating with Clackamas County when it comes to expanding library services for the city.
and we have to because we're part of that district.
right, and I understand it, it's just that, but that deals with city. The reference to Hoodlum. Is outside, maybe you don't see where I.
Would that be like Welch's and?
So we're referencing.
Yeah,
And I understand the collaboration with other agencies, but that usually in the context to help Sandy.
right.
But here we're referencing something outside. Again, I'm not saying it's bad, it's just curious.
So the Hoodland Library is in the same shopping center as the Thriftway, I believe, up in Welch's. And the city runs that library with financial assistance from the county library district. I'm the wrong person to be asking about this, to be honest. This is where I get a little fuzzy. I don't know how all the,
Now, I'm not saying it shouldn't be, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
but yes, the city of Sandy does run this library and the Hoodland Library in Welch's currently.
It's probably why it's stated like that. Yeah.
But I do think it's worth maybe bringing up that to make sure that that's how they want the policy to stay on the 3rd of April. Because I don't know, I can't speak to the library or to the council of what their long-term objectives are with the Hoodland Library.
And that's also an example of where that could be a targeted conversation with library representatives within the city. This is kind of an example of like, hey, we're developing policy language, having conversation with the library and being like, this is what we're proposing.
I think that'd be a really good idea. Sarah McIntyre, the library director. And I will admit, it is a very confusing arrangement.
Yeah. All right, anything else here? I had a slide about group discussion. I feel like we had it. I guess any final reflections on the goals or the policies or the concepts that were captured in these first 3?
The policies are like very easy to understand.
Okay,
They're very practical. I don't think I think a normal person reading would come, a group would come to the same conclusion reading. There's not vagueness in them.
right, they're succinct. Yeah, and they're meant to be still at a level that is still high. But it also provides a lot of options for some more measurable action items and objectives to help direct this policy. So yeah, writing policy is a really interesting exercise in being at just the right level of information. So that it is relevant to the higher thinking process, but then also applicable or easy to codify through implementation and action plans.
And giving direction, but also providing flexibility.
All the time, direction but flexibility, yeah. But also direct.
Maya, from like a youth perspective, do you think we're missing anything on the community and culture?
No. Like in policy 126, you talk about. Probably. Know how to watch that, but a little bit of this kind of like a broad little. Like I just knew like how I'm here, like. Yeah. I think you here is a direct example of what we have that policy. But I think there is interest in ensuring that youth are particularly involved or maybe more involved in civic affairs. Given that we do have a large young population in Sandy and given that future is yours.
That was probably more aspirational than some of the others,
Potentially.
you know, compared.
But I don't know, my answer today, so.
Right. Wow, dude.
Someone coming in, but you know, it relies on people like Shelley to be building these relationships. And it relies on staff and dedicated individuals to have relationships with teachers and student groups. And have your finger on the pulse of who is where and being able to entice young folks. Yeah, I mean, that there are likely a number of implementation strategies around this. But I would say no, Amaya, I don't at this point have anything further. Yeah, but if you have ideas about like what, you know, how to create these opportunities, yeah, we would. I think definitely just going to schools, which have like a lot of amenities, facilities, yeah, school, yeah. Yeah, I would say coordinating with the school district or just the relationship with the school district is a very important one for not only other things, but also this type of policy.
It's looking at it again, that one is one, that's policy. That says we have to do something. Contrasting it with 3.5, maintain city services for senior activities and programming. We don't have to do anything to meet that, to implement that policy in its stance, you know, because we
Yeah.
could do stuff.
But I think the intent is like, let's maintain what we're
Yeah.
doing. Yeah.
One of you said we gotta create it. That's great use of the word.
Yeah, I don't want to be this guy, but I'm going to for 1 second. I think commissions probably should be committees. And the reason why is because I think commissions, you have to be 18 or over to sit on. Yeah.
Year-old still read.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I think, I know on the planning commission arts committee, the 18, so I did it, not a big deal.
Great. Okay, should we move along?
Good.
Great. Okay, this is a BT one. This is the one that I was most like, oh goodness, we've got a lot to go over. So transportation and infrastructure, a lot of content here. So yeah, we have our vision statement for transportation and infrastructure. I won't repeat it, but we talk about public facilities and services, water, wastewater, stormwater. We talk about municipal broadband. We talk about transportation and highways and bike paths. And we talk about energy as part of all of that. So there's a lot going on here. This theme we broke out into 3 subsections: transportation, infrastructure, and energy. So in this theme, transportation is an example of something that we tried our best to kind of mold for this comp plan. So as we mentioned, the city just is about to update their brand new TSP, their transportation systems plan. The transportation systems plan already has goals and policies. So we did the very arduous work of copying over the goals and policies from the TSP into this draft. So this was not created All of the goals and the policies under transportation was already created and vetted through essentially its own process. The TSP had its own committees, it had its own public outreach, it had its own adoption process. So a lot of this content has already been just vetted and confirmed through other means. So this is an example of this where we kind of folded in what's out there right now. But under transportation, so not similar to the other ones, there are actually a number of goals here. I have 2 slides full of goals. We have 9 goals under transportation. And essentially they're organized by these topic areas. So mobility and connectivity. So the goal is obviously provide a transportation system that prioritizes mobility and connectivity for all users. Capital investments and funding, promote cost-effective investments in the transportation system, community needs, provide a system that supports community needs. So identifying what those are, bike-centric, pedestrian-centric, car-centric, or a combination of both. System management, so this is about traffic management to achieve an efficient use of the infrastructure. Environmental, so there's kind of a nod to energy here. Minimize environmental impacts on resources and encourage a carbon neutral or efficient transportation alternatives. We have obviously a goal about transit. So providing safe, efficient, high quality transit service. In fact, this goal here is stated in the TSP, but this goal actually comes directly from the transit master plan. So I love seeing the synergy between a transit master plan that gets put into a TSP that gets put into a comp plan.
But now it's just updated a few years ago too.
Exactly, the transit master plan is almost brand new as well, which is pretty exciting. Safety, obviously huge, promote a safe transportation system. Equity, which is great to see. It's been a long time, or we actually rarely see equity in TSPs, and it's becoming more commonplace. So this is really about providing transportation choice for all users. And then health, support options for exercise and healthy lifestyles, and knowing that the way that we move is really connected to health. So so those are the goals.
And just so you know, the Parks and Trails Master Plan that was just adopted was also folded into the TSP.
Yes.
So because of all the trail network goals in there.
Yeah.
So there a list of trails that are registered?
There is in the Parks and Trails Master Plan, yeah, it's very comprehensive.
So I would say generally speaking, there's about like anywhere from 4 to 8 policies for each of these 9 goal statements. There's just a lot of content here. I would say I don't know these by heart personally. I'm very familiar with them, but I don't know them by heart the way that I know the other policies. So yeah, I'll just kind of pause. There's 9 of these, so this is like there's a lot here.
Are we still doing the same gut check on these?
Yeah.
Because they're basically adopted and folded over.
I would say do a gut check. Yes, they've definitely like been vetted and confirmed. I don't, I will lean on you if there's something that you're like this is worth discussing, then.
It's now's the time, because we're gonna be bringing it for adoption in the next few months, so I can get, and I'm the project manager for this, so we could get it over to our consultants on that. Yeah, so that'd be the time to know.
But let's just continue gut checking here for sure. I would say my first read of these policies is that it's all about making sure we cover all of our bases, and they cover all of our bases. I would say policy 1.5 is a particular policy direction in that emphasizing local street connections and minimizing access along the city's arterial to reduce reliance on 26 and 211 for local trips. I think that is like a more kind of pointed policy direction that I see here.
So pick side streets instead of 2.
Yeah, so emphasize local street connections, so build more local street connections so that there isn't a ton of local traffic trying to get on and off of these major arterials that cause congestion and backup.
That'd be like the road that they're going past the high school.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. That is the perfect example of it.
Anything here? Capital improvements or investments and funding. This I would say does also a really good job of just covering bases, making sure that you're, yes, maximizing the life of your existing facilities, that you are seeking opportunities to combine transportation, infrastructure, and environmental mitigation projects. So always looking for opportunities that can have multiple benefits. Maximizing the use of state and federal funds for capital, operating, and service improvements. And then, of course, maintaining a capital improvement plan that identifies construction priorities and funding. The capital improvement plan is also known as the CIP, and that is definitely a very active document that is where a lot of budget decisions are made around. This is where we decide what sidewalk we're going to build and where we're going to put the bike lane. So I'd say, yeah, this is probably, I personally don't have any like major reactions to this. I feel like this kind of covers the bases.
This one is kind of a little bit boilerplate, I'll just be honest.
A little boilerplate, yeah.
Like it could be for any communities.
As in like the last one, that last policy felt like very, applicable to state, okay, community needs. So obviously provide a system that supports community needs. The first policy here talks about making sure that all the locations of your streets are feasible in the city's TSP and are able to guide local street development as the city expands. There's an interest in, protect scenic resources and the historic character of Sandy. So as we put in roads and transportation infrastructure, being mindful of those elements. Identify gateway and beautification treatments for 211 and Highway 26. There are obviously some physical things within the right of way that can help aid in gateway elements or beautification that are outside of the city's jurisdiction. We know that 211 and Highway 26, those are state-owned facilities. So the city has, there's just a relationship there between the city and ODOT and maintaining that right of way.
City actually owns 211 now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it just happened like 6 months ago.
There you go. We call out.
I emailed somebody about the garbage on the state owned it, but now I know we
Just switched. Yep.
We call out the Bornstead Village Plan, which is just an example of, master planning process and making sure that we are aligned with that process. And then, ensuring coordination with the TSP and the PTMP, which is a great policy to have in the comp plan. It just says, make sure your comp plan, or make sure that the TSP and the Parks and Trails master plan don't conflict with the comp plan. And then identify walking and biking needs in the urban growth boundary expansion areas, so beyond city limits, but in areas that we know we may grow into over time.
So what's the Bornstead Village Plan?
That's just an area specific plan for a small section of Sandy, between. Yeah, it goes all the way over to what's that West Street, blanking on it. It goes basically from Jacoby, you know where Jacoby is? It goes from Jacoby west all the way past Bornstead to that other street that goes north-south. I don't know why I'm blanking on it. Past Village, the next street is the.
Seltzer water.
It's just a refinement created in like the late 90s, early 2000s. It sets some additional standards for connectivity in that area. And then it also has additional treatments for the houses in there and has a few other requirements. It was created, I believe, because that area was brought into UGB. And then the BBO was created shortly thereafter, from what I understand. Yeah. It's a refinement plan, basically. It's one of the only ones. It's really the only one.
Couple thoughts.
Yeah.
And the first one was, in reading the goal, provide a transportation system that supports the community needs. Question, okay, what are the specific community needs? I expected them to show up in the policies. I don't know that I could
Yeah, they're kind of,
identify.
I know what you mean. They're kind of vague, and I would say the specific community needs are those needs that are identified in the TSP and the Parks Trail Master Plan, that those needs are the scenic and historic scenic resources and historic character. Yeah, I think this feels like a little bit of a catch-all. And it's not like this outlines what are those needs, but I think it refers to other places where those needs are articulated. Like the Bornstead Village Plan, you know.
That was my second one, just from editing.
Mhm.
See. In the, well, or the policy, Ormsted Village Plan, in parentheses, BVO. Which you expect to be BVP, but
Yeah.
it is Ormsted Village Overlay,
Yeah,
Got
big
it,
texture,
technical.
yeah.
got it.
We should call it, you know, it's plan two. BVO is on.
Great. Okay, let's move along here. Okay, system management, this is about traffic management. I would say system management is always about balancing competing needs. And I think we see that in these policies. So balancing local access with also the need to serve regional and statewide traffic. It's also planning for a transportation system that supports this growth that we know we're going to see. And maximizes travel options by providing efficient routes for all modes of transportation. So balancing efficiency. And then coordinating with ODOT to ensure traffic signals, crossings, and other highway infrastructure are designed to balance local and regional needs, which means balance needs for pedestrians crossing the highway and cyclists going down the highway and freight traffic, et cetera. Anything here? Environmental. Minimize environmental impacts on natural resources and encourage carbon neutral or efficient transportation alternatives. So obviously we want to avoid or mitigate transportation projects that impact creeks, wetlands, cultural resources, wildlife corridors, etc. This actually policy is probably very important to have, but it is definitely codified in a lot of other places as well. Support energy conservation by supporting public transit, transportation demand management, transportation system management, and a multimodal transportation system. So yeah, energy conservation through mass transit, bicycle, pedestrian infrastructure, honestly, EV charging stations, things like that.
Would this also be like, where any limits on like. Sports and things like that?
I don't know. Good question. I'm not sure.
Probably,
Yeah. Because I think that we can't necessarily dictate what's on the trucks. But maybe we can someday dictate that the trucks themselves are electric. Yeah.
So is there like a plan to do like a bike lane over the Greco or something, or is this just we're talking inner city stuff?
I think just interesting.
Inner city stuff?
There is an ODOT project to increase the number of, to put a bike lane in Sandy all the way through. I don't know if that, when or if that will ever happen, but they've talked about it before.
I don't know, just curious.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if people want to do that, they can.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and then obviously a policy around just thinking about construction methods and construction waste that typically happens from big projects. I actually see this topic about linking construction with energy use, because a lot of projects are really energy intensive, and there's a great variety of construction methods, whether it's building buildings or paving roads that can where the energy use can vary greatly based on the method that is used. So that's linking construction with energy is we might see it. Anything here? Okay, ooh, I feel like I misnumbered. Safety. Yeah, is safety supposed to be 6? I think so. Okay. Safety. Yeah, is transit in this?
Says number 6.
Okay, it's not here. Yeah,
That was a curveball.
okay, transit, let's just look at what's in our, yeah, this is page in the PowerPoint. Transit, goal 6. Obviously, we want to provide safe, efficient, high quality transit service that gives residents, businesses, visitors more freedom to meet their needs within the region and the state, and offers an alternative to private vehicle use to support the efficient use of roadways and reduce air pollution and energy use. There's a lot going on in this goal statement. This is a lot. Like, I don't know. It comes from the transit master plan, and I don't want to go against their word, but it is a very long sentence. The basis. I think this is where transit is like, we are doing all of these things, and I want.
You just got here and then turn to the right.
Yeah.
It's right across the way right there.
But regardless, the goal captures a lot of things, and then I think the policy does the policies do a good job. Obviously, we want a service that's safe, comfortable, and useful. In transit planning, there's a lot of collaboration that needs to happen with other agencies. In order to render it useful, we need to be able to connect easily between various transit systems. Improving accessibility to transit services is huge. For folks arriving by foot, bicycle, or with a mobility device. And then increasing public awareness of Sandy Transit and its connectivity to other transit systems and transportation modes.
And that is being achieved right now because I'm doing the new route to Clark's Town Center.
That's awesome.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You know, something that I realize is not here is that there's no mention of the trolley.
Okay.
Hey, very sandy.
Oh, we have 2 routes.
I know.
It's not perfect. Yeah.
It is.
Oh.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, it is, yeah, right, which is like, okay, that's what trolley does. I just like to see the word trolley.
And I know we're converting a few of our old gillies that we have we're buying new electric buses through a federal grant or transit.
Cool.
They're like $1 million buses that she
Yes.
landed it through a federal grant.
The transit master plan definitely talks about the trolley. So,
It has to.
we're fine.
Get the word trolley.
So stupid. And if we're trying to like. Yes. My personal, yeah.
Try and hide it in some sort of an acrostic.
Right. You bold the different letters of trolley.
Got it in.
Yeah. Anything here?
Under transit.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Safety, which we have up on the screen here. I would say policies are pretty basic and all make sense.
Kind of boilerplate again a little bit.
A little bit, but all like cover the bases, like they state the things that we should all like that need to happen and are already happening. Yeah,
I will say policy 7.6 is very applicable to Sandy.
there you go.
And the reason why is because we get a lot of inquiries about slowing down traffic in Sandy, especially east of downtown out to Shorty's Corner. And so we're going to be prioritizing that as a speed study and trying to lower the speed limits over the next few years.
There's 211.
And yes, you're 100% correct. 211 is,
211.
yep,
Feels like.
it's way too
Yeah.
fast. Yeah, that is the other area we identified.
It's not, if they go 45, that's fine, 50, but.
They're going 70.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, we should probably move along since we have like 5-10 minutes to go through the rest of this. Equity. So ensuring that the system provides equitable access to different types of populations and is easy to use for different types of travelers. And then, of course, ensuring ADA requirements for bicycle and pedestrian facilities, or that they're clear of obstacles that meet those requirements. Health. It's nice to actually see this in transportation, health and equity. This speaks a little bit to the Parks and Trails Master Plan, but obviously developing multi-use walking and biking routes to various destinations like schools, shopping, transit routes. Physically separating pedestrian facilities from vehicle traffic on major streets that makes a much nicer pedestrian experience when you know you have a very large buffer between the road and where you're walking or running. And then apply traffic calming measures to support neighborhood livability.
And we asked our consultant to add this one.
Yeah, great. All right, anything here? All right, now we're moving into infrastructure and energy. So under this section, we talk about water, wastewater, stormwater, and municipal broadband and energy.
These get very technical, by the
They
way.
do, yeah.
Excited.
They're very exciting. There's obviously a lot going on with infrastructure in Sandy right now. So this is the content that we see here for these policies are reflective of a lot of nuanced discussions with folks that are involved in managing our water, wastewater, and stormwater systems.
And we had these all vetted by our public works director, Jenny Coker, who's also an engineer and has a ton of experience with wastewater and water infrastructure modifications. So she went through all of these and vetted them.
Yeah. And I think this is an example of an area where, so on Monday, Shelby was there. We hosted, and Jerry as well, we hosted a stakeholder workshop around natural hazard planning and mitigation. Infrastructure was a big topic that we talked about there. And a lot of the goals here are reflective of the policies or the action items that we discussed at that workshop. What I think we might see is that we might see additional information added to this section once we start processing the conversations that we had on Monday. So I think this is an example of a section where you might want to, we'll probably show this to you again. There might be some other changes or additions down. But the goals are pretty big, like they're basic and broad and straightforward. It's about obviously investing in our systems. It's about improving and maintaining and making them efficient, and that we're also being fiscally responsible for these investments. Yeah, and then for municipal broadband, obviously SandyNet is a huge asset in the city. So continue to expand those services and understanding who, how we can expand access to that. And then we do also talk about energy within the context of the built environment.
Kelly, 1A, planning division.
I'm sorry, what's that?
1A refers to planning division.
Yeah.
That would kick off.
Yeah, because it's the community, it's the development services department, we have two divisions. I changed that off.
Water is an example. There are 10 policies here. There's a lot going on here.
We're gonna be spending tens of millions on our water system, so.
So yeah, we talk about things like progressive water rate structures. We talk about strategic planning for planning strategically for future expansion areas. We talk about reservoir capacities, collaborating with wholesale water customers, Portland Water Bureau, and other types of agencies to ensure that we have adequate water supply. We talk about improving pipes and replacing pipes. There's already a replacement program for pipes and just continuing that. Oops. Yeah. We also talk about applying smart technology applications for water management, so smart metering, anything detection, water distribution and management planning. We always like to call out the city's water systems master plan. This is where a lot of this technical information actually gets broken down and identified as capital improvement projects. But we always like to call out those plans in the policy. But yeah, this I would say was definitely a very collaborative development of language.
Yeah, and 1.8 is gonna be really key in the future because the amount that it's gonna cost you to buy a cubic foot of water is just going to continue to really rapidly increase. So people that choose, like myself even, to have a lawn, that's gonna get increasingly expensive to water that, so. Not that we wanna mandate anything against lawns, but to just be a little bit more programmatic about exactly what's planted and if it's water wise.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't there something planning, builders were supposed to plant so many trees?
Yes,
No.
and we're gonna be expanding that, and that builders are gonna have to, at some point in the next couple of years, they're gonna have to be doing more water wise. Landscaping.
I know I had to take down some of my trees because they're like worthless, they put them in the weird spot,
Yeah.
they just put them on there.
And unfortunately with the
My
larger,
house.
unfortunately, the larger builders too, national builders, they just do large lawns, which is fun, but it consumes a lot more water, and as you'll see, our water rates are gonna continue to spike up, so. That's what 1.8 is, trying to manage that.
I'm gonna move us along here. Wastewater, also very important.
I had one.
Yeah, oh, please,
There's more editorial on 1.9,
yes.
and maintain level of service dispute disruptions. I
I would say service disruptions.
Yeah, yeah,
See 1.9.
Minimize service.
does the dispute word.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that the word is speeches.
Well, to the greatest extent possible, incorporate energy resilience into water system designs to minimize, maintain,
Adequate levels of service.
yeah,
Or no,
maintain
we'll have to take a run at that one.
adequate levels of service, minimize disruptions.
Yeah, I think it is. Good
I
catch.
thought it should have been despite disruptions.
Or just,
It might be, well, we can check on that.
Yeah, it
Good
just.
catch though.
thank you for checking that, yeah. Great, okay.
Yeah, it's definitely not right.
All right, wastewater. So obviously. We are expanding or developing new wastewater treatment plants, so pursuing the study and development of those. Continuing to assess discharge alternatives to protect the health of Tickle Creek and the Sandy River, obviously big topics of conversation here. Pursue funding sources, financing programs so we can maintain affordable rates. Continue to monitor and assess system development charges to support the expansion and improvement of the system. And then once again, explore the use of technology to help optimize wastewater treatment processes and lower life cycle costs. Stormwater, which is also, I think, an example, and these are all similar, talking about continuing to monitor, report stormwater services, maintaining your drainages, always identifying innovative stormwater management techniques. There's a lot of those out there. There's a lot of interesting ways to deal and manage with stormwater that both a developer can do, a city can do, and a resident can do. So we have policies that cover that. Coordination and collaboration, stormwater goes beyond just arbitrary city limits. So maintaining collaborative relationships around managing stormwater. Policy 3.7, I would say, speaks to some of the interesting partnerships that the city has with places like nurseries to manage and use stormwater runoff. Okay, anything else I need to hear?
There's this.
Yeah,
My
please.
question, policy 3.1 uses an acronym. Fine, what is?
Great, I don't even know what that is. Fine. Thank you.
I feel like I know what that is, but I don't know the acronym.
Whatever you say, we.
Somewhat. Municipal broadband, this is about Sandy Net. I'm very excited to call this out. I don't know if I've told you, but municipal broadband is not something you see in a lot of communities. So it is a pretty interesting and amazing asset to have as a community, which is also why you'll see kind of the elevation of, or elevating the idea of using the fact that you have broadband internet to continue infusing technology in managing your systems, whether it be water, stormwater, et cetera. So knowing that you have kind of that sort of infrastructure in place, and being able to continue expanding it and using it for a variety of different things.
And these were reviewed by our Sandy Net director as well.
The first one,
Mhm.
develop a master plan to expand, again, this is.
Yeah.
To expand sustainable fiber services for all users. Expanding it to users. They already have it.
The new users are.
Yeah. That's not how it's done.
Yeah, I mean,
Unless the verb is sustainable or the adjective. Sustainable for all. Expand. It's just a wording through me.
yeah, I see what you're saying. I think sustainable was actually a Kathleen's comment, right? Or that was a,
Could have been,
Yeah.
yeah, I think there was, I think removing one of those words would be a good idea after I'm reading.
If it said more like expanded to all
to all user,
citizens, no, to all citizens or to all
Sandy resident.
residents, yeah, something like that, that would make more sense.
And I think the reason it doesn't say Sandy residents, just so you know, is because,
You're going outside.
correct,
All areas, I don't know, all areas of.
Yeah.
Yes, Andy, who knows?
Or just drop that for all users
Yeah,
to expand sustainable fiber services.
let's do that.
I like that.
Just leave it there.
Yeah.
I do like that. Yeah, 'cause we haven't really defined exactly how far we're gonna go yet,
Yeah,
so I think that's correct.
great.
It's always gonna be a little bit.
A little creative, yeah. Yeah, when you can buy it for half the rate of the other provider, sure.
All right, last one, energy. So promoting resource efficiency and energy in the built environment. So this is about promoting land uses that conserve energy, which we know happens through infill development and patterns that locate activities and destinations in close proximity to one another to reduce trips. Ensuring we have a responsive development code and standards that encourage energy efficient design in new development, redevelopment, and retrofit. Policy 5.3, deploy EV charging infrastructure to meet current and future demand. All of these gas stations will be moot in about 20 years from now. So thinking about that, encouraging the use of mass transit. So speaking a little bit to that transit goal. And then once again, utilizing smart technology applications to monitor and conserve energy across public utilities and facilities. So these are pretty like basic policies, but I think the topic of energy will kind of come up again in some other topic areas as well. So it's crossover.
Good job.
Anything?
And if they have anything else, please send them to us.
Yeah, I know this was a lot, and yeah, I captured the notes that we all kind of mentioned here, but if there is, and if you come across this later and you have more to add, please feel free to send. Yeah. Okay, exactly.
I think those water ones are gonna be keeping you up at night.
So 2 more minutes before we adjourn here, but just quick next steps. That was obviously a lot of information. We are going to revise these draft goals and policies based on the feedback that we got tonight. We will have a joint planning commission and city council work session on Monday, April 3rd. That'll be an opportunity for the team to share out to council and planning commission what we did, what we heard from you guys, kind of some changes that happened between the first iteration and the second iteration. And then essentially we won't be meeting again until mid-July. So we'll kind of start launching into the next block of goals and policies. So when we meet on July 12th, we'll be reviewing the topics of, I think, what was it that we're gonna review? Parks, trails, natural resources, and natural hazards and resilience. That's gonna be really fun, because a lot of that content is coming out of not only the Parks and Trails Master Plan, but those stakeholder workshops that we've been working on in the background. So that'll be an opportunity to kind of report back out to you what those workshops were all about, what we learned, and then what we came up with. And it sounds like we have a new location. So this, I guess, is important for all of you. We won't be meeting in this room next time. So on Wednesday, July 12th, we will be meeting at City Hall instead of the library room. Is that correct, Kelly?
Yeah,
We made that.
we're gonna switch the last two back. to
Okay.
today.
Yeah.
We're gonna be launching a new program for meetings, and I'm gonna know how to use that one.
Great.
We don't wanna.
And then in the last 30 seconds of the meeting, curious overall meeting content and organizations. There's a lot here. It's a lot of information. Do you have any reflections, things to consider moving forward? Is there anything you want to do differently next time we meet when it comes to reviewing all of this content? You know, it could be like, instead of meeting, we have an online survey, or we do other things, but I also feel like it is nice to talk through this.
Yeah.
But it is also a lot of content. I just wanna, I don't wanna bore you guys to death. But if there's anything that we should do differently, or like, approach this information differently on all of this.
I think it's good, and it's stuff we have to do.
Yeah.
And it's, you need to understand what we have to do tonight.
Great.
Very good.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, it's helpful to know the hierarchy, like you broke it down on last slide.
Yeah.
This sits under this, sits under this.
Yeah, because there's so much embedded under different things, yeah. Because you need to understand what the roadmap is for this information. For sure. Okay, well, I really appreciate it, very much appreciate your feedback. I always look forward to sharing kind of the feedback that we got from the CAC, the Planning Commission and City Council. So it feels important that this committee exists and that you were here, like, working through this with us. So I know there's only 4 of us in the room, but super important that you guys are here. It's really appreciate it. I will say there's only 2 more CAC meetings left, but just to prime the pump a little bit, when it comes to adoption, I would love if there were any CAC members that would like to testify at a hearing or share their experience about this process to, like, as we go through the adoption hearing. So what I mean to say is there are other opportunities for folks to just be in front of an elected body and kind of share what your thoughts were about how this went and what came of it. So yeah, thank you for leading in this room and then leading in other ways as well.
Did you record this?
Yes.
Because my suggestion is, thinking of the July meeting, that there may be people that weren't here tonight. It'd be nice if we could encourage them
Yeah.
to go through watch the recording, it's not that long. Over the pages that we have, so they're better more up to speed from when we jump in the next, if we go to the next one, we know exactly what we have to do.
Totally. Yeah, this will be kind of we've got, obviously, participation is something that we're really struggling with. We've sent out the reminders and the emails, we've made the phone calls, and it's just hard to get folks. And I understand it's 8 o'clock on Wednesday night. You guys all have jobs. It's a lot to ask of folks. So yeah, we'll just see what kind of participation we have at the next meeting, and I'm happy to be as flexible as possible and have the information out there and recap it with those that weren't there. And if everyone was here that was here tonight, we don't have to go over that, just kind of jump right in. So.
And the meeting after that will be in November, and I think it'll be easy for everybody to probably meet that night. The July 12th meeting, we do realize it's right in the middle of summer. But keep on track with our schedule. It's gonna be hard.
Amaya will be at college.
Oh.
She'll be at U of L. Yes. My last meeting. Oh my God. Yeah.
feel like I did that cover on Zoom.
But I have too much homework.
I mean,
Joining you guys on Zoom.
saying that though, if you do want to still be included, I think there would be value in still, even if you can't attend the meetings, to get the materials and give us feedback. And we would really appreciate that.
And maybe what I might do, Maya, is I might steal you for a city council hearing, maybe during a time that you are back home or something in the winter. What am I doing?
Planning commission, city council are all Zooms.
That's true, yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
That's very-
Yeah. All right, guys, thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Grab, put it on your way out.
For anybody at home or anything, please grab one.